Well, forget sugar or alcohol detoxes. The latest vice to ditch is digital.
Yes, the average person spends nearly 2 hours on social media every day, which translates to over 5 years in a lifetime. That's more time than we spend eating, socialising or doing laundry. So how can we break free from our screen dependency for good? Here with all the answers is psychologist from Breathe magazine, Dr. Suzy Green. Great to have you on the show,
Hi, great to be here.
Now, there was one study that showed people who spent a lot of time on social media were nearly 3 times more likely to have depression than people who didn't spend that time on social media. Explain that to us.
It's interesting because there has been a number of studies to show a correlation with depression and anxiety, but there's also been, on the flip side, a number of studies that show that social media can have a really positive effect on our well-being. And in fact, there was quite a comprehensive study done in Melbourne, so it was a local study last year, to show that it really came down to who you were in using it and your mood state, which can play a big part. If you're depressed, then it may not be the best thing to be engaging in for a lot of time, but also how you're actually using it as well.
All right. Well, if it's not working out for some, let's get some tips on shaking our social media addictions. After how long should we log off?
Look, again, there's no set time that the research has found, so it probably is an individual thing, but I would, as a professional, recommend that I don't think you'd be wanting to spend more than at least 30 minutes at a time on it. But what we do find, as you would have experienced yourself, you find yourself getting into what we call the flow state, and there's been a lot of research on that, where you become sort of absorbed in it and you're down a rabbit's hole, you go from one screen to the next, and then you look and you go, my goodness, where's the time gone? So if you can set some boundaries, that's probably the most important tip, is to set some boundaries on how much time you want to spend, and then have some sort of alarm system or some sort of automatic switch off system to allow you to pull back from it.
Okay, so right, that's it, time to log off. Now, you say it's important, or be careful with who you follow, maybe cull some people if they're a bit toxic. Or...
Definitely. So there's also a lot of research in psychology around social comparison. So we know that often when we're trying to keep up with the Joneses, if you like, or looking at what celebrities are doing, it can have a really negative impact on our mood. So it doesn't mean you may not have an interest in what they're doing, but it's perhaps better to go to their website rather than having a continuous feed of what people are doing in their lives. Spend more time focusing in on your own life and your family's life.
Yeah.
And when we talk about toxic people, what do you how do you define that? What's toxic to one person is maybe different to the other.
I guess it really comes down to a negativity. So if you're having a negative experience through, observing someone's feed or, any sort of negativity associated with it, we actually know not only makes you feel bad, it affects how you function in your life too. So it's really good to probably do a bit of an audit of your social media, even of your emails. Think about, unsubscribing, unfollowing, and, time's really precious. You want to be really careful where you're using it and how you're using it.
Suzy, some people argued that you should be giving your passwords to a trusted friend. Define trusted.
Yes.
No, seriously. Isn't that a little bit dangerous?
Well, it could be, couldn't it? And I guess, trust is probably the key word. The one thing we do know is that most people generally are not very self-regulated, what we would call self-regulated. So even though they have good intentions to, only use it for, say, an hour or 30 minutes, we find that, again, most people really struggle with that. So it may be in the early stages of creating a habit or setting a goal around your usage that you do, bring in a trusted friend. But I would suggest it's only for a brief period until you start to master it and you can, self-regulate, really.
Okay, maybe just don't share your banking passwords.
No, not a good idea.
Now, you also recommend setting up some new traditions, like say 1 day of the week where you just don't use any social media or something like that.
Yeah, so perhaps like phone-free Fridays, I've heard being talked about lately. So weekends as well. But also thinking about the activities that you do. So obviously sporting activities, it's very hard to be using your phone or your social media if you're engaged in an active activity. So I think it's a really good opportunity for people to review their lives and then think about what are the things that are most important. Sure, there's a place for social media, but how do I want to use it? And then setting some objectives around that.
Very interesting topic. Thank you so much, Suzy. Great to see you.
Thanks very much.
And for more digital detox tips and tricks, you can pick up a copy of Breathe magazine, on sale now.